Alrighty.
All right, we're good. Well, welcome everyone. Thank you for being here today. My name is Emily. I work for MidFirst Bank right across the way over there, and I have the coolest job at the bank. Don't tell those people because they'll be all jealous. But like my job is to go around and talk to people about how to manage your money in a really good way. And the thing we're talking about today is specifically how to manage your money in the workplace. Because there's a couple of transitions that happen in terms of money as we get older. So like the first transition was when you realized what money was, right? So when you're little and you just think, I don't know, mom's got this card, and like when she gives it to people, they give us stuff, and it's pretty awesome. Like, and then when you realize what's going on there, that's money transition number one. Money transition number two is when you like get out of high school, maybe you're starting to work part-time or maybe full-time or whatever, and you just kind of realize, okay, I gotta pay for college. Money transition number three happens post-college. You're in the career mindset, you know, and all of a sudden you have to pay for things that like you didn't know that you had to pay for before. And so that's kind of the transition that we're going to talk about today. There's four basic categories that come into play here. The first one's negotiating your salary. The second one is decoding your pay stub. Third is budgeting your pay. And fourth is saving for retirement. So all four of these things are personal finance topics related specifically to a career. So negotiating your salary, there's a saying that says, you know, you don't get what's fair in life, you get what you negotiate. I think that's really interesting because we just assume that, you know, oh yeah, we're really smart, we're going to be offered these best positions, and it doesn't always happen that way. Why don't people negotiate, do you think? Like why do you think people just accept the very first offer that they get? Yeah?
Well, I have to say, because they're trying to start off and don't know how to understand how to negotiate.
Yeah, maybe they don't know.
Or trying to rush into the dream job or just trying to get the experience.
Absolutely. Did you guys think that?
I was trying to say that they're just trying to get the foot in the door, and they believe that that's what they're mostly going to get from starting off.
Yeah, exactly. They're just like, oh my gosh, I have a job. Why am I complaining, right? So just to kind of show you some global statistics, 3 out of 4 people will accept the very first job offer that's given to them. But what's interesting is that 9 out of 10 hiring managers were prepared to give more. Now, not a lot more, right? And maybe not to everybody, but 9 out of 10 people had a little bit extra to give. And so I feel like knowing that, we are able to negotiate a lot better, or at least feel empowered to negotiate a little bit. It's not huge amounts though, folks. See, like that's the misconception. It's not like you're saying, no, I need $20,000 more than that. No. Like for example, if you are an hourly worker and you gradually work your way up to $1 more increase in pay, that's going to result in $2,000 more a year. It's not bad, right? Look at with salaried workers, it's even bigger. Let's look at these two people. Let's say that she gets a job offer $50,000. Man, nice job, it's great. You're super excited, right? She changes jobs 8 times, which is actually the normal, it's the average amount that we will change jobs in our life. It could be one company, it could be different companies, but 8 different positions is typical. And she never negotiates any of those 8 times. Right? Then employee number 2 over here, he also gets offered the $50,000 job, but he negotiates $2,000 increase. Not huge, but he does the same thing each time, every time he gets a job. He's going to earn $1.5 million more over the course of his lifetime. It's little bits, because, you know, we might think, oh, but, you know, that $2,000, I don't know, is it really worth it? Yeah, over the long term it is. That's the thing. How do we do it? Well, there's some things we need to keep in mind. Doing your research is super critical. Not all jobs are open to negotiation. You know, like some jobs, like you know, a lot of government workers, like it is what it is, you know, and if you don't have a chance to negotiate. You also might realize what you got offered was a good deal. If any of you use the app Glassdoor, it's one of my favorites. You're able to kind of type in, like, you know, what does a marketing manager in Phoenix, Arizona typically make? You know, you can see, you know, what a high end, the low end, what the average is. So you might already be at the high end of that range, you know. But doing your research will really help you position your next step. Showing how you'll meet challenges. So when you do ask for that raise or whatever, you know, you don't necessarily want to come at it from your perspective. You don't want to be like, oh, I need more money so that I can afford this apartment I want. No, no, no. It's, I deserve more money because of what I'm going to do for you. I see that you have this problem. I see you have, you know, this thing that you need solved. I am uniquely qualified to solve it. Always frame it in the what's in it for them kind of mentality, and you're going to be a lot more successful. Finally, keeping non-salary items in mind. You know, if a raise isn't an option, maybe relocation expenses are. Or maybe you can telecommute 1 day a week, or things like that. So these are just some things that you really want to keep in mind in the negotiation process. When you do go in and negotiate, you want to be confident. We don't want like, well, you know, I think like maybe sort of, you should give me this raise. Actually, I'm sorry, I just forget I ever said any words, right? Like, no, got it. We also want to listen very carefully to the things that they're saying. So remember, a lot of people just going to say, oh, I don't know what's important to the company, so I don't know how to do this interview. If you talk less and listen more, it's a really good strategy to listen, to pick up on what is important to them, and then highlight those parts of your resume. I know, like in interviews, we're very tempted to kind of rehearse what we're going to say in advance, and then sometimes we don't listen. We just, in our head, we're keeping rehearsing, you know. Listen to what they're saying and really try to gather what is this person's most important thing, and how can I show how uniquely qualified I am to fix that. Determination. You know, your first job might not be where you negotiate. In fact, a lot of people don't in their first job because, like you say, you're just getting your foot in the door. You don't have a lot of leverage. But I would hate for that to mean that for the other 7 jobs, you don't do it either. You know, just because you didn't do it your first or your second or even your third, that doesn't mean that it's a no forever. You know, every job is a new situation. You got to reassess, what are my skills? What's the job market like? You know, what's the best course of action for me right now? And then finally, knowledge will really help you. You would be shocked how many people apply for jobs without knowing anything about the company. You know, and people don't want workers who don't care. Like, people want workers who are invested in the company, know a little bit about it. You know, like let's say you were applying to work at ASU. You know, if you were just like, hey, so why do you want to work at ASU? I don't know. Like, it's a college, right? Like, I don't want to work at college. Sounds like it's a good fit, right? But if instead you were like, gosh, you know, I've read up a lot on Michael Crow, you know, and his passion for retention and serving all students and not just some students, and you know, his thing with innovation, like that really all resonates with me, and I just really want to be part of that family. Well, hello, someone did their research, right? That's someone who now has more leveraging power in the interview. It's not hard to find out either. Like everything I just said, you can find out like on ASU's front page. Do you know what I mean? And some people just don't do that. I'm like, no, I just want that job. So any questions on this module before we move on? Because I know that this is something we don't talk about a lot in terms of salary negotiation. You'll see I have some of the slides in that handout that I handed out to you, so I want to reference that. Once you get the job, woohoo! Now we got to look at our pay stub. Because you remember when you got your very, very first job and you thought you were going to make this much? And then you looked at your paycheck and you're like, whoa, what happened? I don't understand. I thought I was getting like money for this. What happened? Well, remember, there are a lot of different things that come out of your paycheck. And your pay stub is the thing that tells you about it. Okay. Gross pay, that's the whole enchilada, all right? That's the whole thing that you earn, but the net pay is actually what you take home. That's what gets deposited in your bank account. Things that are taken out, federal tax, kind of on everyone's mind right now because taxes are due next week. Yeah, 17th this year. How much tax is taken out of your paycheck depends on how you filled out your W-4. So when you got hired for your job, you had to fill out a lot of papers. One of them is called a W-4, it's a tax form. And how you fill that out dictates how much tax is taken out. So if you think that like you're having too much tax taken out or like not enough, you should ask your HR person, hey, I need to adjust my withholdings. That's what it's called. I need to adjust my withholdings. I need to fill out another W-4, a different one. I need to change it. And they'll be able to let you do that. It's not just federal tax, though. The state government wants some, too. So you see state taxes. You'll also see Social Security as well as Medicare taken out. Social Security is about 6.8% right now, and Medicare is about 1.5 and 1.45-ish% that's taken out right now. So you'll see all of this in your pay stub, and I really do encourage you to look at your pay stub, because you probably don't even get, like unless you actually get a check, right? You probably don't even get a physical pay stub anymore. Most people do it online now. But because it's online, nobody looks at it. Nobody ever looks at it to see, gosh, how much have I paid in Social Security this year? How much have I paid, you know, in retirement? You'll see other stuff, like right here in this area, that's where they'll put like retirement. They'll put, you know, if your employer pays your medical insurance, you'll see all that kind of stuff. You'll also see a lot of acronyms. So you'll see FICA mentioned a lot. FICA stands for the Federal Insurance Contribution Act. So fun party trivia. Okay. So that's basically the legislation that said, hey, we're going to take Social Security out of your paycheck. Okay? So you'll see that. You'll also see current totals versus year-to-date totals. So you'll see, you know, hey, like this paycheck is from California. So that's CAST, California State Tax. Hey, I paid $44 in this 2-week pay period, and then in a whole year I paid $221, right? You'll also see, where this becomes really cool is also in terms of retirement. Like if you're saving for retirement, through your work, it'll say, yeah, hey, year-to-date, you've saved whatever amount. When you are getting paid, I really encourage you to sign up for a direct deposit, which a lot of people don't realize. I mean, most people do direct deposit in that they just have it deposited right into their bank account, but a lot of people don't realize you can split your direct deposit into several different bank accounts. And man, when I started doing this, it was so helpful. You know, I put some in my do we need it back on there for the video? Can they still see?
Actually, the PowerPoint
better?
is even better.
Oh, good. Okay, good. So, hey, look at that. So, like, I put most of it in my checking account, but then I put some of it in my savings. And I don't touch that money. Like, it goes right from work to savings. And it's great because I don't see it. Like, in my head, I just don't make that money anymore. You know what I mean? And pretty soon, I don't even remember it's there. And it just starts saving automatically. So, again, talk to HR. They can set that up for you. Just fill out a different direct deposit form. You can probably just do it online. Now, once you're, you know, you've got this job, you've figured out your pay stub, and now you've got your paycheck, now you got to decide how you're going to budget it. Because when people get their very first full-time job, a lot of times they, you know, they're excited because they're like, oh my gosh, I've got all this money that I didn't have yesterday. And what do we want to spend it? We see all the wants, we see all the things that like, oh my gosh, this was unattainable, and now it is. And it's not uncommon for, look what you did. It's not uncommon for people to just totally waste their first couple paychecks, just going kind of nuts with all of their spending. So a good rule of thumb, and you'll probably hear this said many times, is pay yourself first. If you've heard people say that before, what does it mean? When people say pay yourself first, what does that mean? Yeah. I called out MidFirst last time when you guys had a hand war. So.
Basically, you reward yourself first. So, you want to buy something or buy yourself that much
So that's one interpretation of it. Did you have a different interpretation of it? He said it? Okay. So it's really interesting. You're right, but we're missing a step. Okay? Because yes, paying yourself is saving, is getting things that are important to you, right? Like before you pay your bills, they can be important to you. But the way to get those things is by saving for them. And so, you know, so the car, right? You're looking for a car or something, you're looking for something big. So you might think, oh gosh, you know what? I just got paid. Oh, let me go out to eat. Let me just celebrate, right? I'm gonna go eat something right now. But instead you're thinking, no, you know what's really important though? That bigger thing that I really want for me, right? I'm gonna save for that first. I'm gonna save for my future, I'm gonna save for the things I want. I'm going to save for emergencies. I'm going to make sure that happens first. And then, hey, if there's money left over, sure, then I'll still go out to eat tonight. You know what I mean? But like, those things got to be priority. People always ask me like, well, how much should I be saving? Well, it's kind of a tough question because it depends on how much you're spending. You know, if you're like when I go talk to high schools, you know, a lot of high schoolers work, and I say, you know, well, what do you guys do with your money? They're like, oh no, spend it. I say, well, gosh, if you don't have any expenses, I don't see why you wouldn't be saving half or more of your money, you know? Like, yeah, if you have no expenses, your parents are paying for stuff, save half and spend half. That's great. Well, but then when we become adults, saving half of our paycheck becomes sort of unrealistic, you know? So as we gain more expenses, we're going to be saving less. 10%, it's kind of a rule of thumb that they tell adults. If you could strive to save 10% of your income, then you're doing all right. But so you're putting it in there first, and it's not even, you know, just a little saving. Like they tell us that we should have 3 to 6 months of living expenses set aside in a savings account, in an emergency fund. What did we do last time? It was you were the magic person. You were the person that did it. See,
it's a sensor up on here. Then
it's like right over there. Oh my gosh, it's really funny. So 3 to 6 months of living expenses. In case what? Like, why would we want 3 to 6 months of living expenses? Yeah.
Just in case something lost your job, medical issues.
Right. I mean, any number of emergencies, right? Like medical issues. You lose your job, a car accident. You know, anything really could happen. Lost job is pretty much the biggest one because, man, when your income's bad. Now remember, I don't mean, so some people look at 3 to 6 months of income and they look what they're spending and they multiply that by 3 and they're like, wow, that's a lot of money. Remember, if you got laid off, I bet you would not be living the same way that you would be if you had a job, right? So remember, it's 3 to 6 months of survival. So you've got to assume that you would be living kind of bare bones, right, at that point. Medical emergencies, car accident. Now the reason I bring these two up is because a lot of people think, well, I have medical insurance and I have car insurance. So why would I have to save for those things? That's what I have insurance for. Yeah, that doesn't cover everything. I mean, I know that like my deductible on my car insurance is $1,000. So even if I got in a car accident, yeah, my insurance is going to pay for some of it, but I got to pay the first $1,000. My health insurance is the same way, you know. It's like, okay, you got to pay like a $500 deductible or something, and then like we'll cover 80% of everything else. Okay, well, thank you. That's good. I mean, because when you're talking about $30,000, yeah, I'm glad someone's paying for that, but I still have stuff to pay for, and I think people don't really realize that until you've had a medical emergency or until you've had a car accident. I don't really think it kind of registers to people that, oh yeah, still costs money. Another common thing we see with young people is losing a roommate. You know, where like you found your dream apartment and you and your buddy are kind of going to room there, and then the lease ends, and they're like, no, totally, no, of course we're going to re-sign together. Yeah, absolutely. And then like 2 days before you're supposed to re-sign the lease, the buddy's like, hey, so found this girlfriend, see, and so we're actually going to do the girlfriend thing, and so that's not what we're going to do. Yeah, so these are some reasons that we want to be saving, okay? How do you budget? Well, there's really only 3 steps. There's really only 3 steps. You know, put money into your savings, that's what we said, so you can get your paycheck. Put money into savings. Then you make sure you have money for your needs. And then you spend what's left over on your wants, you know? The problem comes up when we do this backwards. That's the problem. When we see the wants and we're like, oh yeah, I got money now, you know? Like, you're such a meanie. Stop the music. Right? No Beethoven. There will be no Beethoven.
And that was a good song too.
Oh my gosh, it's funny. So, you know, when the wants come in the beginning of the month and the needs come at the end, it's kind of like, oh my gosh, this is tough. But that's why we want a budget. All you've got to have is some kind of statement. Guys, like, I feel like people think budgets have to be these like big elaborate things. Like, no, just think. Here's the money that's coming in. Here's the money that's coming out. I kind of want to make sure they're equal, right? I would really, really recommend, before you do a budget for the very first time, that before you set a goal, find out what you're actually spending. Because man, I remember doing my first budget, and like I had a pretty little template, you know, and I was trying to fill in some numbers. And it was asking me how much I wanted to spend a month on groceries. And I was like, all right, well, I don't know, $50? Like, is that a good number? I'll write down $50. That sounds great. Well, okay, well then, like, I realized that's insane. Like, you can't even, like, breathe in a grocery store without spending $50, you know? But if I had tracked what I was actually spending first, and then used that information to make the budget, I would have been so much more successful. So do that. And no less than 30 days. So just, you know, track every purchase you make for 30 days. Use that information to say, okay, do I like these numbers or do I not like these numbers? And then use that as a jumping off point to make a budget. Any questions on that part of it before we get into the like mega saving, retirement? Retirement on steroids, saving on steroids, right? Okay, because I feel like there's saving and then there's saving, right? I mean, there's like saving for if my car breaks down or saving for the immediate things, and then there's like this long-term savings. And we really do have to think about it separately. You'll hear people talk about this concept called liquid savings. And when people talk about their liquid savings, what that means is their ability to go into a bank and take it out. If you had to pay a bill right now, tomorrow, how much could you go to the bank and take out that day? Right? Now, if you have money in a retirement account, can you just like walk into the bank and just like pull some money out of the ATM from a retirement account? No. So that's not like super liquid, okay? Things like in like investments that you can't just like take out, right? That's not your house. Your house is an asset that's not liquid, right? Because you would have to sell your house. So hey, my house is worth $300,000. That's great. Can I have that money? No, because I live in my house, right? You'd have to sell that house to get that money. Okay, so different assets are classified as either very liquid, not so liquid. Retirement is one of those things that like you can't just spend it on anything. You're saving it for retirement. There's a lot of different ways to do it. Most people save through their job, but you don't have to. So if you're at your job, a lot of people get it deducted from their payroll. They have it in what's called a 401k. Sometimes you'll hear people talk about a 403b. This is the most popular one, the 401k, but 403b is very similar. Some employers will match what they put in or what you put into your account, but vesting rules apply. So I'll give you an example of what that might be. So like, for example, you know, I work for MidFirst. I have a retirement plan. We have a 401k, something a lot of jobs do. That's not something I could open without my job. A 401k is not something that you can just like walk into the bank and say, hey, I'd like to open up a 401k. You've got to have a job that has set up an account in that way. And then so I put some money into my retirement account, and my employer matches it. So like, if I were to put 5% of my salary into my retirement account, MidFirst is like, yeah, that's great. You know what? I'm going to match what you put in addition to your salary. And that's not uncommon for a company to do. But the money that I contribute, like if I were to leave the bank tomorrow, okay, get a new job, I could take anything with me that I personally put into my retirement account. I could take it and put it in another retirement account. I can't just take it out like in cash. I wouldn't want to take it out just in cash, but like I could transfer it to another retirement account. The money that they matched, okay, that is not yours right away. If you've only worked for the company for like 6 months, you could leave with this piggy bank, but you have to keep this piggy bank there. They call that being vested. So like at some companies, you are not fully vested until 3 years. So you work there for 3 years, or 7 years, or 5 years, okay? Whatever number goes here, that's how long it takes to be vested. Some people do it gradually. Some people are like, well, if you leave after 3 years, you can take half of it, and if you leave after 7 years, you can take all of it. So it's just kind of a way, it's an incentive, right, to keep people at the company a little bit longer. I think it's kind of important to know that number. Yeah, like can you imagine if it was 7 years and like you worked there 6 years and 6 months and you're like, that's it, I'm done, I'm done. And you're like, really? You couldn't stick it out 6 more months to get that like however many $1,000 that is right there? It's an important number to know. It's also important when you're deciding which job to take. Because remember, there's a lot of factors that make a job the best job. It might not just be salary. You know, if one job, you know, pays a little bit more in salary, but the other job pays you huge more in your retirement or in other benefits, you know, it's something we gotta weigh. It's something we gotta weigh against. Do you have to have a full-time benefits eligible job to save? No, you don't. You absolutely don't. A lot of people think that you do. So if you do not work for a company that has a 401k, or maybe you're not full-time, as long as you have a job of some sort, you have money that you have earned, you can save for retirement. Okay? It's called an IRA. These are two of the options, IRA, individual retirement account, or a Roth IRA. The difference in those two is how they're taxed. I mean, there's a lot of differences, but that's like the main difference that people think about. So with a traditional IRA, you do not pay taxes on that money. You pay the taxes when you take it out when you retire. With a Roth, you do pay the taxes now, but you won't have to take them out later because you've already paid the taxes, right? So those are the two that there are. Now these are for retirement though. Okay, so there's limits on how much you can put in there, but you can go to a bank and do this. I mean, there's a lot of places you can do this online, at a brokerage, like you can do this in your bank. You can do this anywhere. Not anywhere, right? Like you couldn't do it at the POD market right there, but like you could do this a lot of places. It is tied to the tax year though. So like, if like for example, if you wanted to put in money for the money that you earned last year, okay, well, so like your deadline to do that would be April 17th because that's when taxes are due. So it's tied to the tax year in that way. And there's limits. I want to say it's like $5,500 what you can put in every year. But that's something, if you're curious about this, you should definitely talk to your tax person, you know, talk to your bank, whoever, whatever financial institution you're involved with, they'll be able to set you up. Guys, remember, there's ways to save for retirement beyond that too. I mean, some people just like save up money in a savings account. I'm not saying that's like the best way you should do, but that's what people do. Some people do it for real estate, you know? They're like, I'm gonna buy a rental house every 3 years and we're gonna rent it out to somebody, and then in 20 years, you know, I'll be making this much money from the rentals and I'm gonna retire. And that's gonna be my retirement. Like, there's some creative ways to do this, but like the traditional, the standard ways that most people do are these and the 401ks. That's kind of what we do. Now, the big issue here is, you know, people talk about how retirement accounts can grow and how you should start saving when you're young, so the power of compound interest can help you out. But it's important to remember that that only applies if you also invest your retirement account. So like, for example, I have the option for my 401k, my account, the money that I put in my account at my job, I have the option to not invest that money at all. Now, you know what? I don't trust the stock market right now. I don't want to have my money in the stock market. I just want it to just be cash, just like a bank account. I could do that. But my money is not going to grow because the 401k and the IRA and those types of accounts, it's just the basket for the money. You have to take that basket and invest it in some of these things in order to have it grow in any way. So what are those things? A lot of people invest in the stock market. I think we're pretty well versed in what that is. It's a shared ownership of a company. Remember, if you're investing in the stock market, you can do that through one stock. Or you can, so like you say, I love McDonald's and I'm going to invest in McDonald's. Or you can invest in this thing called an index fund, which is like the entire, like you're investing in like the S&P 500 is a stock index, right? You're like, I don't want to just invest in one, I want to invest in that whole thing. I want to own a little bit of all 500 of those companies in the S&P 500. Well, that's an index fund. So that's, you know, there's a lot of different ways to invest in the stock market. Annuities, the thing to remember about annuities is that they are insurance products. Insurance products that pay disbursements. Bonds, a little bit different than stocks. You kind of become the bank in the bond situation. You are loaning money to a corporation or a government at a fixed interest rate. Mutual funds are kind of a collection of a lot of different things rolled up together in a fund that someone has put all together for you. It's kind of like a florist. I like to think of mutual funds like a florist making a bouquet. They're like, I want this one, this one, this one, this one, this one, this one, and this all looks nice together, and I'm going to sell you this thing, rather than you having to go get all those flowers and putting them together yourself. Some people put their money in CD. Now, this is the only one of these things that you can just go to a bank and do. Right, so a CD is not an investment in the same way that these are an investment, because a CD is the only one that is guaranteed to not lose you money. Everything else up here can lose you money, except this one. So a CD is when you go to your bank and you say, hey, you know, I have $2,000 and I'd like you to keep it for a year for me, or 6 months, like whatever it is that you decide on. And then in exchange, they give you more interest than they would just only have a normal savings account. Like just to give you an example, you know, a lot of banks are paying way below 1% on savings accounts right now. But it is not uncommon to see banks giving over 1% interest on CDs right now. So, you know, those are the kind, and you want to look at the rates and everything, but just that's the difference that you see between savings accounts and CDs. The thing to remember is that when you talk about investments, you'll hear people talk about what's called a risk continuum. There's things like CD. A CD will not lose any money for you. It's also probably not going to make you rich, right? Because things that are super safe tend to not pay out as much, okay? Like you're not going to lose anything, but you're not going to make a ton. Stocks, you know, like the people who invested in Bitcoin, right? I mean, like, they could have made a ton of money. They also could have lost a ton of money. So it's like, where on the spectrum are you? A lot of people will choose kind of a variety of them. The general advice is that younger people have riskier investments and they get safer as they get older. Like if you were to just go to have your fund managed by someone, they would ask you how old you are. They tend to put you in riskier things as you're younger and safer things as you're older. It's kind of a rule of thumb. But why do you think that is? I mean, no one likes to lose money, right? But their line of thought is when you're young, if you lose some, you've got time to catch up. Whereas, I mean, if you're 64 and you just lose half your retirement account in the stock market because you had a risky investment, like that stinks. You know, there's no time to catch up. Like you just don't have that money anymore. The big thing to remember, guys, is whichever one you choose, don't let someone just tell you, oh, this is the best option for you. That's super, super important. Because because a lot of people are really intimidated by investing, and they're really intimidated by retirement accounts, and they're just kind of like, I don't know, just like, just do something for me, and I don't want to ask questions. I'm afraid of sounding dumb. Do your research. If your company is, because they probably hired someone to manage your 401k if you're in a job, find out who that person is and say, gosh, can you explain? I see that the default account here is to be invested in these 6 things, and I don't really understand what that means. Could you walk me through that? Or could you just tell me, I'm having a hard time finding what the typical growth has been for this fund that I'm in. Could you help me find that? All those kinds of questions are so super important, and they're things that we just don't ask. So be the one that asks them, because I'd rather you be young and ask than just live 20 years of your life not knowing and be like, oh man, I wish I'd known that, right? In your little sheet, we have a lot of this stuff. So we have this whole thing on salary negotiation in the front. And here's kind of that pay stub stuff that we were talking about. Budgeting, we're also talking about tracking your expenses, which is really, really cool. Anybody have an app that they love for expense tracking? So I've heard 2 recently. So people love Mint. I don't use it personally, but it seems to be the go-to for people who are fond of spreadsheets. There's another one that they just came out with last year. It sounds really interesting. It's called Joy. And I kind of like it because it's like, if Mint is the thing for spreadsheets, Joy is like the anti-spreadsheet, because it asks you to rate purchases based on how happy they made you. And I think that's really cool, because then like over the long term, you can kind of start seeing your history of like, oh, what was actually bringing me happiness here, and maybe it wasn't making me as happy as I thought. And then on the back, of course, we have we have all of these different investment type options. We've got a little scenario of power, compound interest, and stuff like that. So we have a little time left over. Are there any questions today or concerns about any of this? Well, if you do think of some questions, anybody knows how to get a hold of me, or you can just walk over to MidFirst, it's like right there. I'm the only person that does this for the bank, so like if you say you were at a money seminar, they'll be like, oh, that's Emily. Like if there's only one of me, so it's only one option. But yeah, thanks guys. Thanks